super late show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in Hollywood, California. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me as we, a bunch of friends, standing around a virtual water cooler, talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and all that sorts of good stuff. Lots of things going on. Still kind of getting over the fact that the Dodgers lost the World Series. I'm not really a baseball fan anyway, so it doesn't bother me all that much. We got a lot of stuff to get to today, including your live questions near the end of the show. But before we get to any of our main stuff, let's go off the top with this. As we all know, there's a new little game that just came out, of course, called Red Dead Redemption 2. And it apparently is doing pretty damn well at the box office. As a matter of fact, according to stories right now, Red Dead Redemption 2 has just crushed it in business, making $725 million. $725 million in sales of its opening weekend. Now, that is huge by any kind of measure and huge by any kind of standard. I mean, when you're talking about some type of property and entertainment that makes $725 million, that's massively impressive. But how impressive is it? It's actually just set the record for the all-time, all-entertainment opening weekend record, including any entertainment. In comparison, let's put it in perspective. Take a look at this. If we're going to take a look at, let's say, Avengers Infinity War, Red Dead Redemption 2 just made $725 million in its opening weekend. Avengers 2 Infinity War made $640 million. So again, putting this in perspective about just how big this Red Dead Redemption 2 launch was. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 was not the biggest opening 3-day for a video game in history. That, I believe, belongs to, what is it, San Andreas, which made like almost $1 billion, but that didn't open on a weekend. It opened on a Tuesday. That's when that game first dropped. So that's technically that. But as far as an opening weekend in all of entertainment, including movies, Red Dead Redemption 2 is now the king. And the reason I bring this up here and now, it's like, John, you hardly ever talk about video games here. Yeah, but again, when you're talking about this type of dollar figure, and you compare it to a movie like Avengers Infinity War, and you just see how well it did, that's impressive. But it also brings up this issue. Whenever a game does well, what a lot of people want to talk about and ask about is, well, will they turn this into a movie? I think you're talking about a no-brainer here about this franchise. This is a franchise, Red Dead, that should be made into the movie, and these types of numbers only bolster that claim. And it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, yes, it's huge and successful, so you're going to have massive brand recognition, you're going to have massive brand loyalty. All that stuff is good reasons to make a movie. But the other reason is this, is that unlike some other massive games, Red Dead is very cinematic in nature. Like Red Dead Redemption is by nature in its entire storytelling and everything, it's a very cinematic experience. There are a lot of fantastic games that don't necessarily, they have some great stories in them and all that kind of stuff, but they don't by nature feel like they are cinematic in their DNA. Red Dead really does feel that way. Now, there is also a reason why, let's say, the game makers may not want to have their property, Red Dead, turned into a movie. That is simply this. Video game movies suck. That's just what I've always done. I didn't mind the last Tomb Raider, to be honest, but we have yet to have a truly great video game movie. And the one thing that may hesitate the rights owners to Red Dead from turning that into a movie is they may think, you know what, making it a movie may just hurt our brand. Actually, there used to be a time in a day where you'd think making a movie out of our game would help our brand. But that narrative may have been flipped on its head a little bit because we may now be in an age where video game developers may think, you know what? Hell, making a movie may actually hurt our game. It may actually be bad for what it is that we're trying to do here. It might not actually be the ideal thing for us to do, so they may want to hold back on that. Now, the one thing about this record that Red Dead Redemption 2 just set that I think we should keep in mind is that it's not an apples to apples comparison when you're comparing it to, say, box office results of a movie. If you are going to buy a ticket to go see a movie, you actually got to get your ass up off the couch, You got to go get on the bus or get in your car or whatever, go to the theater, buy your ticket and be there. With today's video games, you can now just sit at home and go, oh yeah, click. Whether it's Steam or on your PS4, whatever, you can say, oh yeah, just buy it. There's no effort involved. Also keep this in mind too. Video games are a hell of a lot more expensive than a movie ticket. So there are still a hell of a lot more people that went out to see Avengers Infinity War on its opening weekend than actually bought Red Dead Redemption 2. So yeah, there are a couple of asterisks there. You got to keep that in mind. But still, bottom line, guys, you put out an entertainment product. That's what video games are. They're entertainment products. You put out an entertainment product, like a movie, like a video game, and it makes $725 million on its opening weekend. Hell, man. That's pretty damn good. That is pretty damn good. All right, let's go off to this next story off the top here. Now, of course, one of our most beloved video game, or not video games, see, now I got video game movies on the mind, but comic book movies of the past number of years is the Deadpool franchise. Deadpool has been fantastic. Deadpool 1, I believe, is in the top 10 greatest comic book movies ever made. I think the first Deadpool's in the top 10. I love that movie. You got Deadpool 2, which was almost on par with Deadpool. I actually may have laughed even more in Deadpool 2 than I did in Deadpool 1. But a lot of people now have been wondering about, okay, what is Deadpool's future? With the impending merger, it's not all finalized yet, but we know it's coming. With the impending merger of the Fox properties into the MCU, Fantastic Four, the X-Men characters, and that includes Deadpool, a lot of people have been wondering, what's going to happen with Deadpool? And even more than that, a lot of people have been wondering this. What happened to Deadpool in Thanos' snap? That's been the question that's been on a lot of people's mind. What happened to Deadpool in Thanos' snap? And how are you going to integrate Deadpool into the MCU? These are the questions a lot of people have been asking. Now, in a recent interview, the High Lord of Marvel, Kevin Feige, was asked about all this stuff, and he said the following. This is what Kevin Feige had to say regarding Deadpool about during the snap and how they're going to integrate Deadpool into the MCU moving forward. He said this. Technically speaking, he was not in the MCU. He was not in that cinematic universe, so he was not affected, probably. What I will say is, for years and years, the dream has been to have access to as many of our characters back so that we can tell those stories at Marvel Studios. If and when that happens, I'll be very excited. We have ideas just from going back 18 years, but nothing specific. Listen to that one part that Kevin Feige says that I thought was really interesting. In talking about the whole merger of the Fox properties in, Kevin Feige himself still isn't talking as if it's a 100% certainty. And I guess technically speaking, it's not a 100% certainty. There are still things that could happen that could derail it, but the smart money says this is all going to be completed here pretty soon, sometime in 2019 for sure. But he does say this, if and when that happens, so there's a little bit of an iffiness there, but for the most part, pretty thing. I'll be very excited. We have ideas from going back 18 years, but nothing specific. Just kind of Kevin Feige reiterating the fact that, no, they have not been sitting down and making big plans about what they're going to do with these Fox characters. Because I remember when people, this is a little bit of a side note, but when this whole thing was going down about the merger and they were going to be bringing in these characters, a lot of people thinking, oh, X-Men are going to be in Avengers 4. You know they're going to do X-Men in Avengers 4. And I keep trying to tell people, no, they're not. They're not. Avengers 4 was planned out, all that kind of stuff, long before any deal was struck. They're not going to just scatter around and now try to force in some kind of X-Men cameo. That's not going to be there. So, but going back to the whole thing about the snap, and it is crazy when people have been asking about it, Kevin Feige has put that to rest. There was no Deadpool in the MCU when Thanos' snap happened, so don't worry about it. Everybody's okay, including Deadpool. And they are looking forward to using him in the movies, and they probably got some rough ideas, but they've been so busy. Guys, they've got Captain Marvel they got coming out. They've been working on Avengers 4. They've been working on Spider-Man Far From Home. They've got their other films that they've lined up as well. They haven't exactly had all the time in the world to sit down and plan out exactly how Deadpool's going to work into their universe, even if he is. So there's a lot of stuff to go on there, but I thought his comments were pretty fun. Okay, guys, with that stuff out of the way, let's now go into our main topics today. How do we select our main topics? Well, it's kind of easy. You guys determine our main topics by emailing me your topics and questions anytime, simply at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. When you write to me, guys, make sure you put the word topic in the subject line. That's how I know you're sending in a question for the show. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. So let's get on with the first email today. And the first email today comes to us from Jerome Deshawn, who writes, "What's good, John? For serious, I loved Venom. And it was funny and exciting. I think you mean exciting in all the right ways. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but yeah, it worked for me. The movie is now officially over the $500 million mark. That's just like $150 million less than Justice League. Question: is it automatic that Venom 2 happens and has Carnage, or could they actually avoid a sequel to do other standalones, or do a sequel that is something other than Carnage? Keep it real." All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jerome. And yeah, the Venom movie, we talked about a little bit on the box office report yesterday. The success of the Venom movie just keeps growing. It's now over 500 million. The official number right now is 508 million. In reality, it's larger than that, but a lot of the international reporting still hasn't come in. So right now, the official number it's at right now is 508, and it's only going to go up because I believe it's only in its third week right now. So that number is just going to go up. It's already made most of its money, but it's just going to go up at that point. Let's put this in perspective for the year as a whole of just how successful, considering a lot of people were predicting this Venom thing was going to be a huge flop. A lot of people that I know, that you know, maybe even some of you were predicting the Venom was going to be a massive flop. But let's look at some actual numbers. Let's go Venom by the numbers here. The opening weekend of Venom made $80 million. Now, putting that in perspective, that is the 7th largest opening for the entire year. Think about that. Out of the hundreds of films that opened this year, Venom was number 7 in its opening weekend. Domestically right now, and again, these are just the current numbers. These numbers will go up. But currently the domestic total is $187 million at the domestic box office. That's number 10 for the entire year, and that is just going to go up. Worldwide, we're looking at, again, 508 million. That makes it the number 13 biggest movie of the year worldwide. And all of this was done on a production budget of just $100 million. Again, remember, this is a film that a lot of people just thought was straight up going to flop. Now, just to put it into some more context, let's take a look at something. How does that compare and give us some perspective to some other high-profile, recognizable name movies? Well, I mean, look, Ant-Man 2 was just out. Ant-Man, a part of the great MCU, Ant-Man 2 that came on the heels of Avengers Infinity War, and it made a very impressive $622 million. At this point, that's less than a $120 million difference for what Venom did. And remember, so many people, not just singers and flop, Venom can't work. Sony doesn't know how to make a movie. Nobody's going to go see a Venom movie without Spider-Man. You can't do a Venom movie without Spider-Man. Remember all those people saying that? Where are they now? Because it came within a whiff of Ant-Man 2, which came off on the heels of Avengers Infinity War. Superman Returns, like comparing this 508 right now, Superman Returns made 391. X-Men Apocalypse, which was, really exciting. It was coming off X-Men Days of Future Past. It might beat, and it might cross X-Men Apocalypse. X-Men First Class, which everybody loved, it beat that with $353 million. The first Thor movie in the MCU made more than that, $449 million. And as you mentioned in the email, Justice League, the culmination of the DCEU, with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, all in the movie together. It's made within 150 million. It's probably going to end up being within 130 million of that. And it's interesting to look at this because this was this little movie that absolutely nobody had any belief in. No, you can't do it. Nobody cares about Venom other than the hardcore comic book fans. Sony won't be able to make something that's successful. You can't possibly do a Venom movie without Spider-Man, yada, 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 yada. And here we are. And I just think when we look at these numbers and we look at these comparisons and we put it all in context, it really just highlights just how impressive of a feat what they did here and what they really pulled off. It's incredibly impressive. Now, going back to the other part of your question about, well, what do they do now? Is it automatic that they do a sequel, or could they just focus on other standalones? I think it's an automatic they're going to do a sequel. And we've already kind of heard from the producers that they've already got their ideas and they're already moving on developing their sequel. It hasn't been greenlit yet, but it's going to be greenlit here any day now. So I do think it's a foregone conclusion they are going to do a sequel for sure. Now, does it absolutely have to revolve around Carnage? When they do the Venom sequel, is it just a foregone conclusion that they do Carnage? I mean, after all, they had Carnage in the post-credit scene. I would say this. Just because something or some character is in a post-credit scene, to me, that's not 100% lock that means that's what they're going to do in their sequel. It's not 100% lock saying that that's what they're going to do further on. However, what does make it 100% lock is that we've already heard the producers talking about what they're going to do with Carnage in the sequel. So the reality is, while just because something's in a post-credit scene doesn't mean it's automatically going to be in a sequel, in this circumstance, it looks like it is, because we've already heard, like I think it was Avi Arad who was already talking about the fact that how they're going to approach Carnage, what they're going to do with Carnage. A lot of people suggesting that, well, if you're going to have Carnage, then that has to be rated R. And he was already saying, you know what? No, it doesn't. We don't have to do R-rated with Carnage because the comic book wasn't R-rated. In which he has a point. So, yes, it's a lock they're going to do a sequel. And I think at this point it's safe to say that, yes, it's a lock. It's going to focus around Carnage. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's move on to the next email. And the next email today comes to us from Jared Alvarez, who writes, "Hello, really big fan of this show." Well, thank you so much, Jared. I appreciate that. With Shazam and Captain Marvel coming out in 2019, which movie do you think will make more money at the box office and be the better film? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jared. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we've got the battle, in many ways, of the Captain Marvels approaching. Now, a lot of you guys know this. Some of you may not. The Shazam character, for many, 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 many years, going back to its inceptions way back ages ago, back to our grandparents' age, his character was actually named Captain Marvel. Shazam used to be called Captain Marvel. That was his name. And Shazam was just the word that he uttered to transform from Billy into Shazam. But his name was Captain Marvel. Now, what some other people still don't realize is that Shazam's name is actually no longer Captain Marvel. It is actually kind of crazy. It's been years since DC officially changed the character's name, but I still get tweets today. And I still get comments in the videos from people saying, John, Shazam's real name is Captain Marvel. Actually, it's not. It used to be. That used to be the case. But a number of years ago, they didn't. And you know what? It's funny. There's this book, and I'm trying to remember. I'm struggling on the name of the book right now. But it's called like Something Fight, the 30 or 40-year battle between Marvel and DC. And there's a chapter in it that really talks a lot about the Captain Marvel characters. Because it was no accident that DC, Marvel's competitor, at the time when they came out with this character and had this character called Captain Marvel. I mean, anyway, there's a chapter in this book about it. Check it out if you get a chance. But anyway, they have this shared history. Captain Marvel and Shazam have this incredibly long history. And now, for the first time, they've both got movies coming out in the same year. Which one's going to win the box office and which one's going to be the better film? All right, I'm going to say something that's not going to surprise you, and then I'm going to say something that may surprise you. What's not going to surprise you is I'm actually thinking at this point, I think Captain Marvel will probably be the better film. Right now, it's just coming out of the studio that has the better track record for producing the better movies right now. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing in the trailer so far. Nothing that's blown our socks off. I'm waiting for trailer number 2 for Captain Marvel. We'll see what they do there. But you've got an Academy Award-winning lead actress in the lead role. Everything looks really good so far. I'm thinking, and again, for the most part, it's just coming out of the studio that has a better track record for making higher quality movies, right? So that's where we're at there. So I do think Captain Marvel will be the better film. Here's the part that might surprise you. Shazam's going to make more money. I think Shazam's going to make more money. Right now, you can feel the climate change because everybody just gasped. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, I think Shazam's going to make more money than Captain Marvel. And I think so for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that Shazam, which, look, it had a killer trailer drop at Comic-Con. That trailer at Comic-Con, like, I thought the best trailer at Comic-Con was Aquaman, but there are a hell of a lot of people out there who felt that the Shazam trailer may have been the best trailer at Comic-Con. The Shazam trailer was great, and it played to all the right notes. And I'm telling you this right now, that Shazam trailer will appeal to a lot more of the general movie-going audience. I'm not even talking about the comic book movie fans. I think that Shazam trailer is going to appeal to a lot more of the general movie-going audience than the Captain Marvel trailer will. It is light, it's fun, it's funny. You got Zach in there, Zach Levi in there, who is just delightful. A lot of people loved him in Chuck. I mean, they recognize him. It just seems like the type of movie that is going to have a broader appeal than a Captain Marvel will. Now, look, Captain Marvel's going to come out, and it's going to make money, there's no doubt. But what we just saw in Ant-Man 2 is that just because the Avengers is out and the Avengers makes $2 billion, that doesn't mean every movie in the MCU is going to do that. Look, Ant-Man 2 did great, made over $660 million, something like that. It did great. But that's a far cry from what Avengers Infinity War did. So just because it's the same universe doesn't automatically mean, oh, MCU movie, that means it makes $1 billion. No, plenty of MCU movies haven't made $1 billion. Now, I'm not saying Shazam is going to make $1 billion either. Don't get me wrong. But Captain Marvel, the trailer, look, if you're going to compare the trailers, the Shazam trailer wins. That Shazam trailer was better than the Captain Marvel trailer. You're talking about appealing to a broader audience. That Shazam thing just felt like a more fun, more friendly, more audience-friendly kind of movie. And you know what? While many people have not heard of Captain Marvel, and not everybody's heard of Shazam, I think more people are aware of the Shazam character. So, bottom line for me is, I think Captain Marvel will be the better movie just because of the track record of the studios. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just guessing. But I'm also going to take the dark horse in this. I don't know, as far as who is going to win the box office, I think Shazam will. Now, I'm not willing to die by that, and I'm not willing to put $20 on that. I'm not feeling that secure about it, but if you're putting me on the spot and asking me, you know what? I'm going to pick the dark horse here. I'm going to say Shazam makes more money. And we'll see how that works out. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? For whatever reason, jump down to the comments section and let me know what you think. All right, let's move on to the next email today. And the next email today comes to us from Gavin Fitzgerald. And Gavin Fitzgerald writes the following. He writes, "Hey, John, love the show." Thank you so much, Gavin. "I'm wondering if Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man are a big success. Could this mean there will be a revival of the music biopic like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? La Bamba, Great Balls of Fire, The Buddy Holly Story, etc." All right, thanks a lot for the email, Gavin. And yes, we've got two very high-profile musical biopic-ish movies coming out. We got Bohemian Rhapsody, which I'm very excited about. And then we got Rocket Man, which just dropped its first trailer a little while ago with Taron Egerton from Kingsman in it. The reason I say biopic-ish is that Rocket Man is not really a biopic. It's not. The filmmakers, the directors, the stars have said it's really more of a fantasy story that kind of uses these road marker moments in Elton John's life to tell a story, but in a very fantasy, whimsical sort of way, kind of in a Moulin Rouge sort of way. So we'll call that biopic-ish. But getting back to the core of the question, if Bohemian Rhapsody, which I think looks great, if Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man are both hugely successful, what will that do? Now, look, we get these questions all the time. John, if the movie about, I don't know, Yuri, the sentient pet rock, if that does great, will we see lots of rock movies coming out? I mean, everybody just seems to see that. If this is a $1 billion movie, if that's a $1 billion movie, what will it do? Well, it's the same answer to anything. Yes, if you put out a movie in a genre that makes $1 billion, it's going to have an influence on what happens. Bohemian Rhapsody is not going to be a $1 billion movie, nor will Rocket Man. But let's say they are big successes. Could that lead to a big resurgence of the musical biopics? I'm going to say this. I'm going to say no for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's not like musical biopics have disappeared since the 80s and 90s, right? It's not like musical biopics have just up and disappeared. The second reason is this, is that we're talking about Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocketman coming out relatively close to each other. Well, guess what? Just a few years ago, there were two other big, high-profile, awards-recognized and winning films, musical biopics. I think it's in 2004 and 2005, or it could have been 2005, 2006. Let's go with 2004 and 2005. Two high-profile musical biopics came out in that same era. We're talking about Walk the Line, about Johnny Cash, and we're talking about Ray with Jamie Foxx. That won Jamie Foxx an Academy Award, by the way, and Joaquin Phoenix got nominated for an Academy Award for Walk the Line. So we had here two big, high-profile, award-winning musical biopics that came out relatively close to each other, and they both did pretty well. Did that success of those films trigger off and start an avalanche of musical biopics? Not really. We still got musical biopics, but did it create like a resurgence, a renaissance, like a new age for musical biopics? No, it didn't. There were great movies. There were solid movies. There were award-winning movies. But nobody looked at them and said, because they're musical biopics, that's why they worked. No, they were just great movies. And I think if, and these are big ifs, if Bohemian Rhapsody and if Rocketman are both good and have some success and maybe even some award success, I think we're looking at the same situation. I don't think it's going to trigger off some huge resurgence of musical biopics, and I don't think it's going to mean that it's going to alter the genre and how people address and approach the genre forever and ever. Amen. I don't think it's going to happen. We just saw an example of this a few years ago with these two films right here. I don't think this will change anything now. Maybe I'm wrong about that. What do you guys think? Do you think successful Bohemian Rhapsodies and Rocketman could spark off a flood of new musical biopics? Or do you think, like me, that we've already kind of seen it before and it didn't really happen? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you think. All right, let's move on now to the final email of the day. And the final email today comes to us from Joseph. And Joseph writes the following. Hi, John. Love your show. Thank you so much, Joseph. I just started watching the show Entourage for the second time, and I'm just curious, John, how accurate is the show with filmmaking, scripts being thrown away, actors getting jobs, agents working with actors, studios, heads, green lighting movies, etc., basically to the real movie world in Hollywood? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Joseph. And you know what? I enjoyed Entourage, I did, but I was a little bit late to the party. I didn't start watching Entourage in season 1. I think it was in season 2 or 3. By the time I moved to LA and moved to Hollywood. And I'll never forget this. The very first place, because me and my buddy moved out here, and I remember I thought it was the coolest thing. I rented an apartment right on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. I thought, oh, this is going to be so glamorous and amazing. I'm going to live in Hollywood, right? Remember, you're talking to a kid from the Hammer from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, right? Moving down to LA. I'm going to live on Sunset Boulevard. It's going to be the coolest thing in the world. And it was a great little apartment, kind of a scummy neighborhood, but anyway. And in the opening credits of Entourage, you know how they're in the car and they're driving and they show the sights you'd see on Sunset Boulevard? Well, one of the things that they show that's highlighted is this strip club in Hollywood. What's the name of the club? Seventh Veil. Thank you. Why did you know that so quickly, fact checker Jonathan? Anyway, the name of the strip club was Seventh Veil. It's right there in Hollywood on Sunset. And my apartment, my bedroom window was right across the street from it. And it had these flashing lights. My friends used to say, it's like a circus calling to children. Come over here. Anyway. But it was pretty funny because I lived right across the street from that Entourage opening credit scene, right? But I'm going to tell you what. I started watching that show, and I started living in Hollywood right about the same time. You would be shocked how accurate that show is. As ridiculous as that show is, and as nonsensical as it seems, and as fantasy as it seems, I was shocked about how actually real that is, which I suppose we shouldn't be all that surprised about, because Mark Wahlberg, who kind of created and produced the show, I mean, he based a lot of that on real people and him and his real experiences in Hollywood. So we really shouldn't be. But if you're living in the Hammer, if you're living in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, or you're living in Vancouver, or you're living in Buffalo, or you're living in wherever, and you watch it, and it's like, you'd watch Entourage and think, oh, that's just all nonsense. No, I'm telling you what, as I started to live in Hollywood, and I started hanging out with certain people, some people who work in studios, some actors, some directors and stuff like that, and hearing the stories being told, I'm telling you what, I'm not saying everything in Entourage was based on 100% fact, but come down and live in LA for a couple of weeks, and you will be shocked at just how actually true to life that show really is. It's nuts, because you would think, wait a minute, we're talking about $1 billion business. People couldn't make decisions based on those things. Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. People are big, professional, and rich. They wouldn't be this petty towards each other because they're all rich and happy. No, they really do. They really do. Professional wouldn't act like that in today's. Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, they do. And it was just kind of fun and funny that I was kind of starting watching that show and living down in LA at the same time. So, and everybody who lives in LA and have lived in LA for a long time, I'm sure they looked at that show and thought, no big deal. Yeah, that's just life around here. But for somebody like me, who came down from Canada and just like, I never thought something like that could be the case, but it really, really is. So yeah, there you go. Thanks for the question. All right, guys, that's it for all the emails today. Now we're going to take some time here and go over and hear what you guys want to talk about. We're going to take live questions from you guys. So let's jump over to the live chat board right now and see what you guys are talking about. All right. The first live chat today comes to us from Daryl Best Wadley, who writes, did you start Daredevil Season 3? Nope, didn't start Daredevil Season 3. I was going to start watching it last night, but got busy. Just got busy. And, you know what it was? What was it that I got home? Oh, you know what it was? Monday Night Football. That's what it was. I was going home last night. I was going to go home because Ann was out last night. I was going to start watching Daredevil Season 3. And then I realized as I got in the car, oh my gosh, the Patriots are playing in Monday Night Football. So I went home and watched the Patriots win Monday Night Football. And after that was done, I had to start doing work for today's show. And by the time that was done, I was like, bedtime. So I didn't get a chance to. I will watch it this week, though. So I am planning on watching Daredevil Season 3 this week. And I am planning on doing a live open spoiler discussion on Daredevil Season 3 on Saturday. That's the plan. Don't hold me to it just yet, but that is the plan. So I'll keep you guys updated with that. All right, next one comes us from Dan Bondi, who writes, could we all take a moment of silence for the victims of Pittsburgh? To my fellow tribe member viewers, strength and resilience. It's just, I mean, what happened? How many days ago was that now? It feels like it's forever ago, but it just happened. I make it a point never to get political on my show, because we are all movie fans, regardless of whatever political background or influence or opinions we have. We're all movie fans together here. And so I'm not going to get political, other than to say, this sort of thing happens too much in this country. This sort of thing happens too much. And definitely thoughts, prayers, well wishes, and all that stuff to our fellow film fans and fellow human beings living in Pittsburgh. And no community should have to deal with situations like this. So yes, all strength and resilience to you guys out there. Thanks for bringing that up, Dan. All right. Marcus Robert Johnson writes, mid-90s is the new movie directed by Jonah Hill. Any word on if it's good? Someone asked yesterday, but they didn't word it best. Yeah, so I've seen the trailer now. I hadn't seen the trailer up till yesterday, to be honest with you. I watched the trailer from mid-90s yesterday. I got to tell you what, it looks, I don't know, it doesn't look all that good to me, to be honest. I see what Jonah Hill is going for, and I like what he's going for, and maybe the movie is great. It wasn't a well put together trailer, though. It wasn't a trailer. I always say the job of a trailer is to take your needle wherever it is with your excitement for a movie and just move your needle up. It didn't budge my needle. It didn't make me want to run out and see it or anything like that. So it's not a well put together trailer. But who knows? Maybe the movie's great. We'll have to wait and see. Patrick Conway writes, what do you think of Luigi in The Simpsons? Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I am Italian. My real name is Giovanni. So we were talking yesterday about, Apu. They might be pulling Apu. There are rumors that Apu might be getting pulled out of The Simpsons and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. What do I think of Luigi? I think Luigi's hilarious.
Yes, it plays to every Italian stereotype. Yes, they do not portray him in a realistic way. I think Luigi is hilarious. As I think most of the characters on, even though I am comic book guy in many ways, I still think the characters are really hilarious. So yeah, I love Luigi in The Simpsons. Bill Ernst writes, I'm in Lesbian with you. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. God, I love that movie. I mean, if it wasn't for Baby Driver, oh God, or Shaun of the Dead. I was going to say, it might be my favorite Edgar Wright film other than Baby Driver, but then there's Shaun of the Dead as well. Damn, Edgar Wright makes good movies. Edgar Wright makes good movies. By the way, speaking of Canada, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World takes place in Toronto, Ontario, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to point that out. Okay. Marcus Robert Johnson writes, why don't TV shows do more crossovers? I'd love to see the Olivia Benson character from Law & Order need the help of Dr. House or something like that. I once saw an episode where Steve Urkel showed up on Full House. No, they used to do like these little, television shows used to do little crossovers back in the 80s from time to time. But you know what? There is more television crossover today than ever before. I mean, just look at CW, for heaven's sakes. All their shows crossover, other than Supernatural, but there's even been whispers of them trying to figure out a way to cross over Supernatural into Arrow. Because Stephen Amell and the guy Jensen Ackles, Jared Padalecki, they're actually like three best friends in real life. So they've been talking about even doing that. So talking about that, I think it's NBC has their Chicago universe. So they got the Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and Chicago Fire, I think it's called. And they all live in the same universe, and they cross over quite often. I don't watch Chicago Med and I don't watch Chicago Fire, but I do watch Chicago PD. I actually like that show. I think it's pretty good. But you're seeing more and more stuff like that in television today than ever before. I even saw a Law & Order character crossover with another show. I can't remember which one it was, but we're seeing it happen more and more today than ever before because everything's got to be in a shared universe these days. It's actually kind of frustrating to me, but we are seeing it more in television. All right. Aaron Moen writes, I'm Irish, so who is your favorite Irish actor? I might get everybody really mad at me here. I believe Liam Neeson is Irish, right? Like, I don't think he's Scottish. I could be wrong about that. But I'd have to go with Colin Farrell. I think Colin Farrell is a ridiculously underrated actor. Like, I keep going back to this. Everybody loves In Bruges, and he's fantastic in Bruges and a lot of stuff. But there was this little movie that Colin Farrell was in a few years ago with Tom Hanks and is it Kristen Scott Thomas, I think? Anyway, called Saving Mr. Banks. And it's about the Walt Disney and the creation of Mary Poppins, right? It's called Saving Mr. Banks. Colin Farrell plays a supporting character, Mr. Banks. And I'm telling you right now, he was in a movie with Hollywood icons, including Tom Hanks, and he stole that movie. He stole that movie. And it was my biggest critique of the Oscars that year was that Colin Farrell didn't get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He easily should have gotten a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He was incredible in it. I think he's a fabulous actor, so I'm going to go with him right now. There might be some other actors I don't even realize are Irish, so put that little asterisk there. Dan Peckett writes, I wish Tim Burton made more horrors. Thoughts? Well, I don't know. I got to admit, I'm not the biggest Tim Burton fan in the world. There are a couple of his movies that I really enjoy, but overall, I'm not really a big fan of his style or his taste. And to be honest with you, Tim Burton doing more horror just seems kind of cliche-ish because you already know what kind of horror it would be. But look, I'm sure lots of people would completely disagree with me on that, and that's totally fine. But it's not something I find myself yearning for, Dan. I mean, that's just me. All right, Paul Baranick writes, I have no interest in seeing CM. I'm going to guess you mean Captain Marvel. I have no interest in seeing Captain Marvel, and I'm very excited for Shazam. But I understand that one is part of a well-established and loved franchise, and the other is the DCEU. Shazam may be better, but I admit Captain Marvel will make more money. This is the funniest thing, dude, because Paul, I'm saying the opposite. I suspect, I don't know, but I'm just suspecting that Captain Marvel will end up being the better movie, again, just because of track record. So I'm suspecting now, but I'm calling the dark horse here. I think Shazam will make more money. Now, a lot of that will have to do with whether Shazam is good or crap. Because if Shazam is crap, then no, it's not going to make more money. But if Shazam is pretty good, I still think it could make more. I still do. And I totally see where you're coming from, and I totally understand the logic. I totally understand that logic. But every once in a while, you got to go with the dark horse. And for me, Paul, I'm going with the dark horse in this one. I'm seeing Shazam is going to make more money. But I don't know. You're all screaming at your monitors right now, telling me what a fool I am. And maybe you're right. It wouldn't be the first time. But I'm still going to stick with Shazam on this. All right. Ben Rayner writes, is there a purpose to pre-ordering digital movies? Dude, you got me. I have no idea. I have always wondered that. Like, I've understood when you're talking about physical media and the limitations, they're limited for how much they have. I've always understood the notion of pre-ordering. Because, the day that something becomes available and you order it, may be out of stock. You might have to wait 4 weeks to get it, blah, blah, blah. So I've always understood the notion of pre-ordering. Movie tickets, I pre-order them all the time. Because if I wait till the day it opens, it could be sold out by then. I understand that. Digital copies of media, whether it's video games or movies or what have you, there's no supply and demand issue there. So honestly, I don't get it. Unless it's a situation where pre-order now and you'll get a bonus Subler Flubler. Oh my God, I've always wanted a Subler Flubler. So if I pre-order my copy of Red Dead Redemption 2, if I pre-order my copy of Venom on Blu-ray, I will get a free Flubler Doobler? Great! Flubler Doobler it up for everybody. Then I can understand that. Then I get it. I get why the companies want to do that, because you make more money now instead of later, and I get why fans would do it. But other than that, Ben, I've never understood any of my friends who pre-order a digital thing. I've never got it, but whatever. Robert Perez writes, can't I just keep pretending that I'm your son? You are my son. Such a great line by Kevin Costner. Great delivery. Dude, we could talk all day about the great lines and the great moments and the greatness of Man of Steel. To me, again, most underrated comic book film of all time, top 10 comic book movie of all time. I love that movie. And damn it, that scene. There are a lot of scenes in that movie that have great lines that you could just say the line and go, oh my God, that was so powerful. But that moment with Kevin, when the kid says, can't I just keep pretending I'm your son? Oh my God, your heart breaks. And Costner, we forget sometimes Costner is an Academy Award winner. He's amazing. The way Costner plays that, he says, you are my son. You can't see it because I got a long sleeve. I'm getting chills sitting here just talking about it right now. I'm getting chills talking about the line. I love that line. That line is brilliant. It's one of the best moments in the movie. ZOMG Ruler Rots writes, think releasing Aquaman overseas first will help it here. It's possible. Now, there are a number of international markets where Aquaman is opening before the December 21st date that it's opening here in North America, right? This is a strategy that Marvel has employed a number of times. There have been many of their movies that they release overseas first. And part of the reason that they do that is when it's a movie they really believe in and they think is going to really knock people's socks off. One of the reasons they do that is so they can start people in North America, which is the biggest box office market. People in North America can start hearing about how audiences are loving this movie. Oh my God, people in Italy are losing their minds for Captain Marvel or whatever, right? Or in this case now, for DC, Aquaman. So it is a strategy that we've seen employed by Marvel to great effect. I'll tell you what this tells me. It's not a guarantee, but I'll tell you what it suggests to me. It suggests to me that DC legit believes in Aquaman. It tells me that DC legitimately believes in Aquaman. Every studio will tell you they believe in their film, but their actions sometimes tell us different. I believe by opening this movie earlier in foreign markets, because if their movie was crap, that's going to do damage, because you're going to open in foreign markets and people in North America are going to hear how other audiences hate this movie. I believe, at the very least, this tells us Warner Brother legitimately believes in this film. I think it's a good sign. I think it's them believing that it's going to get positive buzz, which will help their North American box office, because they need all the help they can get opening when they're opening. We already saw that right now the projections are 40 to 60 million. I believe it'll go north of that, but maybe not too terribly north of that. So I think it's a good sign. I do. Look, the movie might suck. I think it's going to be solid. I think this is a good sign. We'll have to see how that all kind of turns out. All right. Let's see. I'm upset writes. Where I am saying, there it goes. I saw Gods of Egypt yesterday. Completely shocked. Chadwick Boseman was in that film. Take back what I said. Definitely his and Gerard Butler's worst film. Yeah, so I think it was I'm upset that brought up yesterday saying, what do you think is Gerard Butler's worst movie? I think it's The Ugly Truth. And I actually think Ugly Truth is awesome. I love Ugly Truth. I think it's hilarious. I'm unapologetic about that. But I said, dude, I think you got to go to Gods of Egypt. So I'm guessing I'm upset hadn't seen that. And now it's like, yep, changed my mind. Gods of Egypt is so bad. I believe, help me out. Fact checker Jonathan, help me out here. I believe Gods of Egypt was directed by the same guy who directed The Crow. I think it's Alex Proyas or something. I'm always mispronouncing that. But once you figure that out, let me know if that's true. But I think it was directed by the same guy who directed The Crow. And it is a truly, truly awful movie. Just awful. Anyway, Marcus Robert Johnson writes, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Ant-Man? Oh, look, you're talking about good Canadian kid, Rick Moranis, a classic movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Fact checker Jonathan's on his phone right now, just trying to figure. It is. So it is the same guy, Alex Proyas. It was him. So there you go. I was not wrong about that. See, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Look, I love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And again, good Canadian kid, Rick Moranis. But I got to go Ant-Man. I really appreciated Ant-Man. I quite enjoyed that movie. Just connected with me really well. So I'm going to go Ant-Man on that. Paul writes, I hope that Clayton K opts out of his contract. Oh, we're talking about Kershaw, the Dodger pitcher. Opts out of his contract. I think that a fresh start with a new team will be the best for him and the Dodgers. Buehler equals new ace. Look, he's still the best pitcher in baseball. Getting rid of him is not good for your team. But I will say this, baseball's not a real sport, so who cares? And everybody in America now hates me. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, were you a fan of the Wesley character in Daredevil Season 1? I think he and Kingpin had amazing chemistry. Shame he had to be killed off. Oh, yeah, I was. I was really bummed out. I loved that character. I thought the character was great. I loved the relationship between him and Kingpin. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But I also was completely impressed that they killed the character off. I was totally impressed by it because when you do that, when you got a character, you think, well, this character's safe, this character's going to... When you do that and then kill a character like that off, it lets you know that anything could happen. I still remember in Sons of Anarchy, which is one of my top 3 all-time favorite shows, the first time they killed off a major character, it signified nobody in this show is safe. And that proved to be true throughout the run of the show. Nobody in that show was ever safe. And so it was a big moment. Let's see. Aviator 986 writes, John, did you hear 2 Avatar sequels just wrapped filming? Only took 11 years. I didn't hear. No, I heard. Here's what I heard, and you could be absolutely right. I'll just tell you there. I heard that Sigourney Weaver had finished shooting her stuff. I had not heard officially that the actual first 2 films have wrapped production. All I heard is that Sigourney Weaver finished shooting her stuff. Now, you could be right. You could be absolutely right. I'm just telling you where I'm at. The last I heard was that Sigourney Weaver finished, and Sigourney Weaver's role could be big or it could be small, it could be medium. For all we knew, they shot her stuff first, and maybe they still have tons of stuff to do. So, again, Aviator, you could be absolutely right about that, but that's not what I've heard, but maybe I just haven't gotten all the information yet. It only took 11 years, no kidding. Stubble McShave writes, do you think Captain America's role in Avengers in some way will be replaced by Captain Marvel? Will we see Captain America hand over the torch to the next Avengers? I still don't know. Like, everybody's still 100% convinced that Chris Evans is done as Captain America, and I am not. I'm not saying he's not done. But I am not on that train that everybody else seems to be on right now that he's officially done. I don't believe that. I'm not saying I believe the alternative. I'm not saying I believe he's absolutely staying either. I'm not saying that either. So I'm not really sure. And by the way, we haven't even seen Captain America or Captain Marvel yet. We have no idea what kind of character they're going to make her out to be. We have no idea what her place in the MCU is. to sit here and speculate, oh, is Captain Marvel going to take Captain America's place kind of as the figurehead of the... it's too early to call that. We already know that Kevin Feige thinks very highly of the character. We already know Kevin Feige has even made some suggestions that she might be the most powerful character in the MCU. That's all fine and good. But until we see something, it's difficult to give any kind of a guess on that. So I'm going to withhold guessing on that for now. Let's see here. Just a couple of questions left here. Gabe Schembarger writes, I think Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor have the best romance. Well, hey, all film is subjective, man. If that is the romance that worked for you, all power to you. That's great. I will disagree. I think they had decent chemistry, mostly because of Chris Pine. I think Chris Pine makes that on-screen stuff work. But I don't know, dude. I mean, to me, and your opinion is no less valid than mine. But in my opinion, comparing that relationship to, like, say, Tony and Pepper, or, you know, Deadpool and Vanessa, or, you know, Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy and The Amazing Spider-Man, I don't think it even comes close. I don't think it even comes remotely close. But hey, all film's subjective, man. Maybe there are a bunch of people out there who really love the Thor and Jane relationship. I hated the Thor and Jane relationship, but maybe there are people out there who love that one. It's all up to our individual preferences, man. Okay. Next one. Jose Robles writes, if Michael and Laurie aren't related, why is he still after her? Am I missing something? Are we talking about Halloween? I think we're talking about Halloween. Well, I think it's just the experience of Halloween, the original. I think that's what I think that's what they're suggesting is still the big connection. It's the experience of what happened in the first Halloween. I think that's what they're suggesting. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I think they were going for. It's the fact that she's the one that beat him. She's the one that got away. So I think that's what they suggest is the connection. But again, I could be wrong. I need to watch the movie again. And the final question today comes to us from Angel Lopez, who writes, hey, John, big fan. I'm planning to go to Canada and my girlfriend. You're planning to go to your girlfriend. That's great. The whole place is beautiful. Where should I go? I'm guessing you and your girlfriend are going to Canada. Well, okay, first of all, keep this in mind. A lot of people ask me, hey, I'm going to Canada. Where should I go? As if Canada was a neighborhood. Canada is a much larger country than the United States. It is a huge geographical landmass. It's a massive, massive place. So it's like saying, like LA to New York. I mean, what part of Canada are you going to? Are you going west? Are you going central? Are you going east? Are you going East Coast? Because if you're going to go, I always tell people if you're going to go anywhere, you got to visit Toronto. Toronto is just, it's like New York, except clean and vibrant. I mean, I don't know. It's just, there's something about it. It's always funny when I talk to American friends who go and visit Toronto for the first time. And it is just such a cultural tossed salad, man. It's just a cultural, rich place. It's just gorgeous and beautiful. Now, as somebody from Hamilton, Ontario, I'm supposed to hate Toronto because we're 45 minutes apart. So Toronto's like that despised big brother, but Toronto's a magnificent city. Vancouver's gorgeous. Montreal is like nothing you've ever been to before. Quebec City, Calgary, Edmonton. You know, there's so many great places you could go. Thunder Bay. If you just want a lot of nature, go to Thunder Bay. Look, so many places I could talk about. And all that kind of stuff. But really, anywhere you go, you're in for a treat. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, don't forget, we'll be back here again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with another installment of the John Campea Show. By the way, guys, make sure you follow me on Twitter for all updates and everything going on about the channel. Just make sure you follow me on Twitter. It's real easy to know my Twitter handle. It's simply @JohnCampea. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks for being here and thanks for being fellow film fans. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.